One of the big questions I get asked is which one is better, the Levoit Core 300 or the Core 300S? It makes sense as they're both very popular air purifiers that will look exactly the same at a glance. For this video, I will go deeper than looks to determine which model offers the best value. I will share with you that data that I've gathered when testing the performance, energy efficiency, sound levels, user experience, and the long-term costs of both the Levoit Core 300 and the Levoit Core 300S. Now, if you want to learn more about our testing methodology, be sure to watch the video here, in which I explain each of our steps in our testing process. Right, let's get to it. The first thing we want to look at is CADR. Now, looking at the CADR scores for an air purifier will give you a baseline of air cleaning performance. Luckily for us, Levoit has sent both the Core 300 and the Core 300S for an AHAM CADR test, and the certificates are available online over at the Energy Star website. As you can see in the table, the Levoit Core 300S offers better CADR than the older Core 300. So for raw lab CADR, it's clear that the Core 300S is more powerful. But let's look at the designs of both units. In broad terms, both of these air purifiers have very similar designs. The control panel is sitting on top. They both feature sleep mode, a timer, and you can access the filter through a cover at the bottom of the device. Both filters are cylindrical and have the exact same dimensions, but there are some key differences that might not be obvious at first glance. So the Core 300S has an onboard air quality sensor that can detect particle pollutants in the air. The Core 300S also has an LED ring at its control panel that changes color depending on air quality in the room. The timer also shows on the onboard screen for the Core 300S versus the light up logos that you get on the Core 300, which means you can have a timer from 1 hour to 24 hours versus just the 3 options you get with the Core 300. The Levoit Core 300S provides app support via the VSync app. So when it comes to design, the Core 300S wins. Clearly, the 300S has a lot more functionalities. However, it does come at a higher price, $99 versus the $149 for the 300S version. Right, let's move on to the filters. The filters for both the Core 300 and the Core 300S are exactly the same. For both devices, you get a choice of filters depending on how much activated carbon you need. The standard filter has 40 to 50 grams of carbon, whereas the PET or toxin filters come with 90 Gs of carbon. Be aware that the more carbon that the filter has, it will reduce the air cleaning performance for particles, but they will provide more help with removing odors and gases. As both of the models use the same filters, this has to be a draw. When we tested the Core 300S and the Core 300 with different OEM and generic filters, there was clearly a benefit to using the Levoit Core 300S versus the older Core 300. Just looking at the standard original Levoit filters, the Core 300 took 54 minutes to achieve PM10, whilst the Core 300S took 45 minutes to achieve PM10. Another interesting finding from the data was that the PureBug filters didn't affect the performance of the Core 300, but it did add a few minutes to the Core 300S. And for those who want the very best performance for the Core 300S, then I would recommend using the green toxin absorb filters, as they offer the best particle performance and they have the highest amount of carbon for dealing with gases and odors. Now, when it comes to air cleaning performance, the Levoit Core 300S wins this one. Now, raw performance is not the only thing that matters when choosing an air purifier. A very important feature is how much sound it generates. Now, here are the results for the Core 300 versus the Core 300S. our testing shows that the Core 300S is a little louder across all fan speeds when compared to the older Core 300. So when it comes to noise levels, the Levoit Core 300 wins this round as it is quieter overall. When it comes to electricity consumption, it's clear that the Core 300 is a lot more power hungry than the Core 300S. If you were to run a Core 300 24/7 at top speed, it would add an additional $37.32 to your electricity bill. And this is $15 more expensive than what we see with the Core 300S, which only adds an additional $22.92 for the year thanks to its more energy efficient fan motor. So in terms of energy consumption, the Core 300S wins. At this point, we can compare total running costs by combining energy costs and the cost of filter replacements. Looking at the table, we can see that the Levoit Core 300S wins in terms of lower long-term running costs. This is thanks to the reduced energy usage versus the older Core 300. Now, when speaking with expert David Elfstrom, he suggested a major difference in the fan motor between the two models based on the AHAM CADR results. This makes sense considering that the Core 300S came out after the Core 300. So in terms of running costs, the Core 300S wins again. So let's get to the bottom line. Just going off which air purifier wins the most categories, the Levoit Core 300S is the better unit. And it does make sense as the Core 300S is the newer, smarter, more energy efficient version of the very popular 300. I looked at Google Trends and we can see that the Core 300 first appeared in 2019 while the Core 300S appeared in 2021. Within those 3 years, Levoit has improved the fan motor design of the Core 300 and integrated smart functionalities without making huge changes to the design. It's worth mentioning that while the Core 300 will initially save you some money, you will end up losing money in the long term due to the higher electricity consumption costs. So even if you don't want the smart functions and the auto mode that you get with the Core 300S, the upgraded fan motor is well worth that extra initial investment. And if you can't afford to spend the extra $50, then you might be better choosing something like the WinX A231 called the Compact Zero in the EU, which has a higher cleaning power and costs less than even the Core 300. Anyway, what do you think? Maybe you still prefer the older Core 300? And are there any differences that I missed? Let me know in the comments. And I will see you all in the next video.